All right, let's talk about a huge shift that's happening right now in AI coding. If you've been using AI to help you write code, you need to know that the game has completely changed. With models like GPT-5 on the horizon, the old tricks, well, they just don't work anymore. In fact, they can actually hurt you. So, let's get into it.
So are you ready to really tap into what these new models can do? I mean, we're talking about a level of power and understanding that's just next level. They can follow complex instructions in a way we've never seen before. But here's the catch. To really unlock all that potential, you've got to learn how to talk to it in a whole new way.
And this is where it gets kinda wild. The very habits that made you successful with older models, they're now your biggest liability. See, the thing is, GPT-5 follows your instructions literally so precisely, that all that vague stuff we used to get away with, it's a recipe for disaster now. What used to be good enough will send this thing completely off the rails.
I think the best way to picture this is with an analogy. Okay, so imagine the older AI models were like a power drill. Kind of blunt, right? You point it in the general direction, pull the trigger, and just hope you hit the right spot. GPT-5? No, that's a surgical laser. It's incredibly powerful, but it demands precision, it demands a steady hand, and it demands you to be thoughtful. The power is off the charts, but so is the need for you to guide it skillfully.
Okay, so let's get practical. How do we actually do this? Our first section is all about what I'm calling the art of precision. These are the hard skills, the nuts and bolts of giving GPT-5 the kind of crystal clear instructions it absolutely craves.
So we're going to break this down into 3 key areas: how to be super precise and avoid conflicting instructions, why you should be using something like XML to structure your prompts, and a really cool one, how to choose the right amount of reasoning effort.
All right, tip number 1. This is the big one. You have to be precise and avoid contradictions. I can't stress this enough. GPT-5 takes you at your word, literally. So if your prompt has fuzzy language or, even worse, tells it to do 2 opposite things, guess what? It's gonna try. And trust me, the result is not gonna be what you want. Clarity is everything.
Okay, tip number 2 is a real game changer. Start using XML-like tags to structure your prompts. Think of it like this. You're putting different parts of your request into clearly labeled boxes. This box is for guiding principles. This one is for tech stack defaults. And this one over here is for the actual task. It just completely removes any confusion for the model about what's what.
So just look at this example right here. See how that works? We've got our guiding principles tag setting this high-level philosophical goal, make everything modular. And then, right below it, the front-end stack defaults tag gives a super specific, concrete rule. Use Tailwind for styling. The AI knows exactly how to separate these ideas. It's not just a big blob of text anymore.
Now for tip number 3, and this one is genuinely cool. It's a totally new idea. You can now control how much thought the model puts into solving your problem. Yeah, you heard that right. You can literally tell it how hard to think. This is a brand new level of control we've just never had before.
So how do you use this? Well, you just match the reasoning level to the task at hand. If you're building something complex from scratch, you're going to want to crank that reasoning effort up to high for the best possible result. But, and this is key, if you're just fixing a simple typo or a small bug, you'll want to dial it way back to low or medium. Otherwise, you're going to get this massively over-engineered solution for a tiny problem, which is just a waste of time.
All right, moving on to our second section. If the first part was all about the hard skills, this next part is about the soft skills. This is where we get into the psychology of it all. We're talking about how to collaborate with this super smart, super capable, and yeah, sometimes super over-eager partner.
In this section, we're going to dig into why being too firm can actually backfire, why you need to give the AI room to just think, and finally, how to manage its incredible eagerness to get the job done. So, tip number 4. Get ready for this one, because it feels completely backward from what we're used to. You actually need to avoid being too firm. I know, right? With the old models, you had to be demanding. You had to shout in all caps sometimes. If you do that with GPT-5, it'll take you so seriously it goes way overboard and over-optimizes everything.
Look at the difference here. The old way was yelling, be thorough, check everything, right? With GPT-5, it's so much more subtle. You give it a tool budget to say, hey, don't look at more than 10 files, or you tell it precisely where it needs to be thorough. It's a total shift. You're not a drill sergeant anymore. You're more like a thoughtful guide. Okay, tip number 5 is critical for anything big. When you're starting a complex project, the last thing you want is for the AI to just dive in and start smashing out code. You need it to think first. You actually have to tell it to plan and reflect on the problem. It's like telling an architect to draw up the blueprints before they start building a house. And here's what that looks like in a prompt.
You're literally telling it, hey, before you write any code, I want you to stop, I want you to think about what a good solution looks like and create a rubric for yourself. So it defines its own success criteria first. Then, it uses that rubric to grade itself as it works. The result is just so much better.
So let's just break that down. The AI creates a rubric, it thinks deeply about the problem, it iterates on a solution internally, and then, this is the magic part, it re-evaluates its own work against the standard it created. You're basically turning the model into its own internal QA team. It's an incredible loop for getting high-quality results.
Our final tip, number 6, you have to learn to control the agent's eagerness. By default, GPT-5 is like a keen new intern who wants to impress you. It wants to be so helpful that it'll try to read every single file in your project to get context. And while that sounds good, it's actually really inefficient. So your job is to put up some guardrails.
And here's a brilliant way to do that. Look at this prompt. You're basically giving it permission to be autonomous. You're saying, listen, don't stop and bother me with every little question. Make a reasonable assumption, write down what you did, and just keep going. This is huge. It empowers the agent to work independently, and it speeds up your whole workflow like you wouldn't believe.
Okay, so let's zoom out. We've gone through all these tips, but what's the big takeaway here? What does all this really mean for how you work? Well, it means we have to completely rethink our relationship with these tools. It's not just a tool anymore.
The old way was all about command and control. You barked an order, the machine did it. That's over. The GPT-5 way, it's about being a thoughtful guide. You're not just giving orders anymore. You're a collaborator, a partner, shaping the AI's actual thought process. And that brings us to the most crucial point of this whole explainer. Your role is changing. It's evolving. You're not just a coder anymore. You're becoming an architect of thought. Your job is less about writing the code and more about designing the thinking that produces the code. Which leaves us with a pretty mind-bending question to chew on, right? Is the future of building software less about the nuts and bolts of writing code and more about the art of guiding a genius? Something to really think about. Thanks so much for tuning in.